Welcome everybody, my name is Nairi, this is Fly Little Birds, and this is a channel all about adoption, fostering, childhood trauma. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe. So this is a family update type video, which means it's a little bit more relaxed. I've got my coffee nearby and I have a dog wandering around the lounge with a cone on his head because he's just had his operation, so you might hear a bit of crashing and banging around. And also thank you so much for those of you who've given me lovely comments. I've had a slip disc and that was about a week ago, so I've got a lot of healing to do, which means I've had to change everything about how I do things, hence I'm in my living room with a hot water bottle behind me. Okay, so enough about that. So I've got quite a few family updates, some kind of interesting things that have happened. And I was going to name this video empathy, lack of understanding of consequence or something like that, but I thought I'd just call it family update and then I can chat to you. So what's happened is we had a bit of a situation with our younger son again, and we've really noticed him going downhill lately. What we've noticed is he actually isn't doing anything we're asking him to do. In fact, he's probably doing the opposite. I mean, literally everything. Whatever we ask, especially me, he just blanks. If Tim asks him, then yeah, he may do it, but he would definitely take about 4 times to be asked to do it. So we've noticed a decline. We've noticed him getting angrier and angrier. And I don't know whether you saw a post that I put on, it might have been Instagram, about a book that I was reading about aggression in children with childhood trauma, and it's described that they could be in the green zone, which means you can communicate with them quite well. They could be in the amber zone, where they're quite angry and angsty and they're building up for something, and then when they're in the red zone they're having a meltdown. Well, he's been in the amber zone for weeks and weeks, and I've tried to talk to him. I think out of the two of Tim and I'm probably the one who does the emotional support more, and Tim's more the one with the physical support, making sure they're getting things done and they're doing the homework and things like that. I'm more the picking up on the emotional thing, and I've just known, you know, that he's on this track of doing what he wants and that it's going to end up in a bit of a disaster, which I think it has ended up in a bit of a disaster. So he's got a paper round. And when he first went for this, I did say to my husband, I don't think this is going to work out. In fact, what I think will happen is he'll do it once and then he'll rope his brother in, and then his brother will be doing the majority of the work. Well, that definitely was the situation. So then his brother's like saying, well, I'm not sure if I want to do it with him. He's making me do more of the papers. No surprise there. And then his brother said one night, like, I'm not doing it tonight, I've got lots of homework. So there was a big faff around that, as you can imagine, because I think one of the issues that the older son has in a way is saying yes and giving in all the time, and then when he tries to withdraw, that doesn't work. Anyway, so I thought it was really, really weird that the younger son kind of went off fairly willingly to do this paper round after a bit of negotiation from my husband. He went off quite willingly to do it, and I expected a massive meltdown over this, but we didn't have it, and I was like, I'm not sure. Let me just grab my coffee a minute. I was thinking, I'm not sure what's going on here, but something is definitely going on. And that's nice. So off he went, he came back, and I also thought, that's really quick. He's come back really quick. He has a certain amount of papers and he's home really quickly. I think my husband thought the same, but you know what? I've got a really bad back. My husband's doing everything. You can't analyse everything all the time. And this is what I'm saying about therapeutic parenting even. You can't actually always have the time to sit down and be emotionally available and ask all the questions. So this goes by. The next day, my husband gets a phone call from the lady that organises the papers and gives the papers. So I'm going to backtrack a bit. She's handed the money over already, as she always does at the beginning. So we don't give it to him until he's done it. But she'd also handed over a really, really big bag of chocolates and sweets, which he was really made up about, and I would have been as well, actually. And so yeah, he was really, really happy, and I was really happy. I thought it was a really lovely thing to do. Excuse me. I thought it was a really lovely thing to do. So yeah, he was really made up about it. But she rang and she said to my husband, have you seen my email? So, gosh, our hearts dropped because we just knew it was going to be something quite big. So he went and had a look at the email, and he came back into me and he said, I'm going to read this out to you. Basically, what my son had done is for these 25 papers that he'd done or not done, he just dropped them on the floor outside their doors. Now, we're in the UK, you don't do that here. We don't have long drives. We don't have hot sunny weather where you could get away with just putting a paper on the floor. We have windy, rainy weather, and you never drop any papers or whatever on a driveway on a floor. You have to put it through a letterbox. That's the job. He knows that's what the job is. And apparently these papers had got wet. They were blowing around the whole street. She'd had complaints from people and she was so upset. And she'd said, I haven't had a problem like this for 32 years. Oh gosh. I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because I kind of like understand my son and the things he does. And to people outside, they don't. But she already knew my husband from doing articles in the paper, from some stuff that he does. So she was saying things like, well, I think you're a really lovely family. And I kept looking at my husband go, explain more, explain more. So she knows about the boys. And so in the end, my husband explained that he likes to try and give a chance for the boys to do things, but sometimes, you know, things don't work out and that we're not surprised that he's done something like this and we're really sorry and grovel, grovel, grovel. And I think he brought her around to see that actually we try to control situations, but actually we can't always do that. Right, so we decided not to go in too strong with my son over this because we needed to get the paper round done and my husband needed to do it with him. Sorry, another coffee break. This hot water bottle's really hot behind me. My husband's just returned home from something now, so he'll be bursting in, so I'll probably cut off and start again in a minute. Tim needed to go up and doing them with him. Like they couldn't be left for my son to do it, obviously. And if we'd come in too hard and gone, right, you're not having this and this is withdrawn, he would have thrown all his toys out the pram and not done it with my husband, which we needed to get it done. It was a bit of an interlude there. I was chatting to my husband. So yeah, trying to remember where I'm at now. So yeah, we didn't want to make a big scene about it because that paper round needed to be done. So Tim did it the first night. We had grandchildren around as well, coming in and out. It's getting to that point where Christmas is coming, and one of my daughters has a nearly 4-month-old baby. Sometimes we see the other grandchildren, and what we can't have happening is my son going off on a big meltdown when there's younger children around. Obviously we've got to be careful around that, so we had to play it really safe. However, when it was all quietened down, the one thing that we felt was obvious to us was he shouldn't get the money for it because he didn't actually do it. And although he kind of said he didn't realise he was doing something wrong, I think he knew enough of the fact that he was trying to race around to do it because his brother wouldn't do it with him and just wanted to get back on his phone. So I think he knew in his heart what he'd done wasn't right, but I'm going to go into that a little bit more in a minute. So we felt he shouldn't have the chocolates and he shouldn't have the money, and that Tim was going to have to do this paper round with him. And actually that's a big commitment for Tim when I've got, I'm not able to do anything at the moment. It's just added pressure. So we felt like that was fair enough that he shouldn't have that. So when that conversation happens, the thing that was really striking with it was the fact that he still maintained he didn't know he'd done anything wrong. And it was almost like that his way of thinking around it was, well, it was outside their door, so it was on their property, so what's wrong with that? Now, I'm sure he knows that he needed to put it through the letterbox, but there's part of him that reasons with himself that actually what he'd done was okay. And this is why I was going to maybe call this video lack of empathy, lack of understanding of consequence, which I think when children have got childhood trauma, this son does have developmental childhood trauma as a diagnosis, then they can't really see what the consequence would be of the actions, and they can't put themselves into the other person's shoes. So he definitely couldn't appreciate how upset this lady was. That just went over his head. And while we were talking to him, a lot of it just went over his head. And so when I sat down with him properly, after everybody had gone and it was quiet, I said, I feel like you are going down the wrong path here. You are definitely trying to do stuff that adults are telling you not to do. And I said, I just feel like you're getting yourself into some real trouble. I said, that lady was really, really upset and you didn't have to have the conversation with her. And he kind of looked at me and he then said, well, I didn't really do anything wrong. You know, I put the papers outside the door. I said, but we're living in a wet country, a blowy country. So I said, all of the papers have blown around all of the neighbourhoods and that lady got complaints. And then he sort of stopped and looked at me as if to say, okay. He started to kind of register about what he'd done and the consequence of it. But it took a long time for him to kind of register that. And then that was the end of that conversation. And I'd said to him, do you think you need to go and speak to someone? Do you think you need therapy? To which he said, what is that? I said, it's like talking about things that trouble you, talking about the past, like counselling. Do you feel like you need that? And he just said, no, but I do need more help at school. And this is what I've said on all of my videos. School is the biggest catalyst for him, particularly around friendships. But it was very interesting what he said to me. He said, they don't understand me. They don't know, a lot of the teachers don't know what I've come from. They don't know that I've been adopted. They don't know my problems, he said, and I'm not getting enough support. So I thought, bingo. I've got something to work with. All of these weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, I've felt that he's been going downhill and almost pushing the self-destruct button. And I think deep down he knew that throwing the papers outside someone's door was part of that. He knew deep down that there were going to be some sort of consequences, even if he didn't fully get it. And I still maintain he doesn't fully get it. The empathy side of it, all the consequences. I still think that part of this is all wrapped up in how he's feeling about school and how the low academic ability plus the friendship problems together is making life really hard for him. So that when he comes home to us, he's just blocking everything we say and he just wants to get on that phone and shut the whole world down. And I do understand that. So Tim and I have got a mission on our hands now where we've worked with our older son to get lots of things in place. He has an EHCP and he actually has disability living allowance. So we feel like we're setting him up for independence for the future with support. I feel like now is time to start looking at the needs of this younger son and start progressing that situation for him, because it's becoming more apparent as he gets older. The gap is getting bigger with what he needs to be doing and understanding and what he really understands and can do. So that was that. But the evidence that he doesn't fully understand the consequences of his actions is that he just fixated on the chocolates. He just fixated on those chocolates. It's almost he couldn't bear that anybody else might have them. It wasn't even so much the fact that he wasn't getting them, because what we'd said is, look, Christmas is really not very far away. We'll get those chocolates out and we'll share them out with everyone. You'll still have some of them. And I said, and actually, there are going to be loads of chocolates in the house. I said, you will more than make up for not having those. You won't even notice that you didn't have them, because actually we do have a lot of chocolate in the house, and we've actually bought additional chocolates separately for the boys. So but all he could think about was the fact that other people might be eating his chocolates. And he kept going on and on and on and on. I said, look, he said, will you tell Dad? I don't want them shared out. I said, okay, I'll tell Dad you don't want them shared out. And you can actually have those, but then you have less of the others. I said, is that acceptable to you? And he said, yes. So it just goes to show how their minds think differently and how I suppose the saddest thing was, in a way, that there was absolutely no remorse for this. This woman who's been doing this free paper for 32 years was devastated with all these complaints coming in, and yet, honestly, my son did not feel it here. And this is the thing about that developmental situation, that he is nearly 14 and he did not think about what he was doing, how that would impact on the people that are supposed to be receiving the papers, the lady who runs the paper shop, the mess in the street. Honestly, I don't even think he's that remorseful now. So there's no point in us going, we've already discussed, there's no point in us saying, well, you can't have your phone now, you can't have this now, you can't. We felt like the money and the chocolates was directly in context of the paper round, and that was something we could say that in the here and now, but the rest of it, it's going to be lost on him totally. So in the new year, we're going to go ahead and start talking to the SENDCO, which is what we call it in the school, about what we can then put in place for him. Sorry, dog's moving, so the cone is gonna crash. Okay, so that's that. Now I want to, so don't come at me about the taking the chocolates and money away. So there has to be some consequences, I believe. Okay, so anyway, moving on to the channel. So some of you probably work out, or say I'm older, I do get health issues. I have got quite a few. None of them are serious, okay, but some of them do make it hard to record, hard to get things done. So you'll see that I popped on a few revisited videos onto the channel when I couldn't record, and I thought that was a really good compromise. And actually, you know, I have hundreds of videos on the channel that if you're newer, say you've been here in the last year, many of them you wouldn't have seen. I do feel the ones back in the early days are much more formal, and some of them have been highly successful. People that want to know ABC about a certain subject, they've been really highly successful and gained a lot of subscribers, but they're not as natural as the ones that I make now, so I probably wouldn't go too far back on the channel. But part of me thinks that ones that were made, say 2 years ago, it's okay to revisit them. So if I have a situation again, either where the behaviour with the boys is off track, or, you know, the things that happen in the family, or my health is suffering, then I hope you forgive me. But what I probably will do is put a revisit video in for that particular week, because at the moment I publish every week, so I'll put a revisit video in there, pop it in. I'll probably give it a similar format so people can see that it's probably a revisit video, and I'll always put it in the description if it is. Okay, so that overcomes that situation. As far as the new year is concerned, I feel like I do have enough subject matter to still post every week, and but what I think I won't do is, if I feel like I really don't have something and I can't think of something that's really going to be beneficial or good, then I won't do that. I won't do that. So one of my sons is walking home now. I can see him because he's got an appointment with a paediatrician, so that's exciting. So thank you again to Christine and Mary for your constant support and membership, and anyone who wants to support me on membership, check it out and you can see what's there. I haven't managed to do an extra video for you both because mainly I did one and then my back went and it was all out of date, everything I said on there. So guys, have a wonderful Christmas. I might have another video before the new year, I might not, but have a wonderful new year, and thank you so much for all of you who've supported me, subscribed and watched my videos. Thank you. Bye.